Hi, I'm Micha Mirto and I'm studying on the MA Directing Drama course. Jordan and I had worked on previous projects together and we were looking for something that we had in common that we might kind of make together. We're trying lots of different ideas and nothing was really sticking. And then Jordan took his mum to the Edinburgh Fringe, and she's a big fan of musical theatre and theatre in general. And she was saying that a lot of the queer-focused shows that she was watching were leaving her a little bit cold. And Jordan's mum is a huge ally. And from this conversation, he had this idea of, well, what would it look like if we centred parents of queer people in a musical? And he brought this idea to me. I'm also queer, and I'm also from the southwest of England, so we've got a lot in common. And we started sort of throwing ideas around, and that's really how Raising Gays started. So, Raising Gays is a musical about the parents of queer people. It is not about the parents who are homophobic villains, like we might see in Everybody's Talking About Jamie. And it's not about the allies that are getting everything right, like Olivia Colman in Heartstopper. It is about the parents who are in the middle ground. It's about the parents who are trying, but not really nailing it. And it's about the parents that are determined to show up for their kids, however uncomfortable it gets, which was definitely my experience growing up. And it was Jordan, the composer lyricist's experience as well. And so it's about those. And what's unusual, I think, about Raising Gays is that we don't feature the children. The children are played by musical instruments. So we see often one side of a conversation, which will be a parent having a chat with their queer child, but the queer child is represented by the music. And this allows us to focus the parent's story, which is actually quite unusual because we're quite used to in musicals having that one moment where the mum gets a song or dad's big moment, but then that parent leaves the stage and is never seen again. And so Raising Gays is about centering that narrative and looking at what happens when you allow people to continue to love you, even if they don't fully understand you, and where is that scope for growth? Early on, we had this idea and we mentioned it to Kiki at the Other Palace. And she mentioned that she does this program called Musical Bites, which is workshop sharings that fit inside a lunch hour. So anyone close to the Other Palace can go for their lunch hour, see some new musical theatre, and then they're back in time for the rest of their sort of office day. So we applied to that. And we were given this slot. And I think when we were given the slot, we had maybe 2 songs and an idea. And so what happened then was some pretty intense writing. And we ended up with a full kind of 45-minute draft 1 of the show. And so our relationship with the Other Palace started from then. And they have been huge allies of the show. They've really been helping us out. And so when Kiki and Alex, the co-host of the podcast, said, would you consider coming and talking to us for a live episode, we obviously jumped at the chance. I think the biggest challenge from creating Raising Gays is that Jordan and I are both freelance, self-employed creatives, which means that we work a lot on a lot of different things. And so scheduling is one of the main challenges, like carving out time and making sure that that time is safeguarded. But also, you know, if something comes up that is paid, then you need to do that as well. So that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is that there are a lot of moving parts in a musical. Obviously, book, lyrics, score, and putting all of those things together and allowing a workshop where we have the time and the space to be able to teach people the songs so that we can properly hear them and develop all of those aspects at the same time. That's been quite challenging. Jordan and I both really thrive on a deadline. So every time there's been a deadline, the piece has taken huge leaps forward. And we were really lucky. We were able to workshop it at Lambda and Trinity Laban, which having that concentrated time with those students allowed us to move forward. What's next for Raising Gays? Okay, so I probably can't say a huge amount because we are in pretty exciting talks with a couple different people. But what I do know is that Susanna Rosenthal, who is our wonderful producer for Susanna Rosenthal Productions, she is producing the next iteration of this. And what we're looking at probably is a extended workshop where we start to look at design, and then we would be open to various different places and different things, but I think at the moment that is all I can say. So my training has really, it couldn't have come at a better time really, because I've been working for years and years, but looking at best practice for this kind of process has been invaluable. So looking at the way a completely funded run would work with a designer, for example, that kind of thing, and going back to basics and identifying the correct order that everything needs to happen in has been extremely useful. And it means that when I'm in conversations with theatres and designers and movement directors, I back myself. And I did before, and it's just affirmed that